Imagine you walk through Paris, Champs-Élysées, Eiffel Tower, Louis Vuitton stores everywhere, tourists buying luxury handbags worth €5,000. Paris generates more wealth per capita than almost any European city. LVMH, Hermes, Chanel, these three brands alone export €75 billion in luxury goods annually. Paris looks rich, Paris feels rich, tourists see France and think wealth and power and sophistication. But drive 20 minutes outside Paris, cross the périphérique, the ring road that circles the city, suddenly you're in different country, Valenciennes, Saint-Étienne, suburbs that tourists never see. Unemployment 15%, infrastructure crumbling, schools falling apart, hospitals understaffed, public services hollowed out. This isn't accident, this is by design, this is France today. France's public debt tripled in 25 years, from 1 trillion to 3.4 trillion euros. Interest payments alone now exceed entire budget for universities and research institutions combined. Since 2017, France went through 7 prime ministers, 7 in 8 years. None delivered lasting reforms, none fixed the problems, none even tried seriously. Political paralysis complete. Real wages stagnated, living costs climbed sharply, housing became unaffordable, youth unemployment 18%, among highest in developed world. Young French can't find jobs, can't afford rent, can't build futures. The pension system consumes 14% of entire economy, more than education, more than defense, more than transportation, all three combined, unsustainable. Everyone knows it, nobody fixes it. At heart, France's problem is simple, persistent overspending. For 51 consecutive years the state ran budget deficits, 51 years, always spending more than collecting in taxes, always borrowing the difference. Now the bill is coming due. France once helped design Eurozone's fiscal rules, now France stands as biggest threat to breaking them. Ironic, tragic, predictable. We're talking about how France became third world economy, how industrial powerhouse turned into importing dependent state, how rich country stopped producing and started consuming, how debt exploded and economy collapsed. In this video we're exposing France's demographic catastrophe, industrial exodus, political paralysis, debt crisis, all interconnected, all self-reinforcing, all pushing country toward reckoning. Buckle up. First, the social contract that broke. France built comprehensive welfare state after World War II. Simple deal, if you get sick state covers medical bills, if you lose job unemployment benefits keep you afloat, when you retire pension guaranteed. From cradle to grave the state takes care of you. For decades the model worked, growth was strong, living standards high, France became Europe's second largest economy. Many saw it as proof capitalism and socialism could coexist. But there was catch, revenues never fully covered expenditures, deficit financed through debt. France ran budget deficit every single year since 1974, every single year. To be fair, debt isn't inherently bad, can fuel growth when used for productive investment. For years France did exactly that, economy grew, workforce was young, millions paid into system, social benefits seemed bearable. But over time arrangement became harder to sustain. France faces 3 predicaments: shrinking population, industrial exodus, political system unable to fix either. These aren't separate problems, they're interconnected. Hey, quick question, if country ran deficits for 51 consecutive years and tripled its debt, would you call that responsible or reckless? Comment below and subscribe because we're exposing economic collapse nobody talks about. To the demographic catastrophe, birth rates collapsing. In 2010 France's fertility rate stood at 2.0 children per woman, highest in Europe. Today it's 1.6 and falling fast. Number of births dropped from 833,000 in 2010 to 663,000 in 2024, that's 20% decline, steeper than Germany, worse than expected. Every year 800,000 retire, only 700,000 enter workforce, net loss 100,000 workers annually, by 2040 only 1.5 workers per retiree, unsustainable. Productivity growth 0.3%, half OECD average, can't compensate for demographic decline. Pensions consume 14% economy, more than education and defense and transport combined. Political system paralyzed, 5 blocks, no majority possible, anti-establishment parties control half electorate, can't govern but can block governance, comprehensive reform impossible. Manufacturing exodus continues, 900,000 jobs lost after euro introduction, labor costs 50% higher than salary, triple Poland's cost, factories relocated, Michelin to Poland, Renault to Morocco, Peugeot to Slovakia. Paris wealthy, periphery collapsing, Valencians 15% unemployment, infrastructure crumbling, services hollowed out, 2 Frances, 1 rich, 1 dying. Markets losing faith, bond yields highest since 2012, spread with Germany widening, each basis point billions more in interest, debt spiral accelerating. And that's France reality, industrial power became importing dependent economy, welfare state became debt trap, political system became obstacle to reform, demographic crisis became existential threat. If this video exposed France's collapse, hit like button, share with anyone who thinks France still great power, data shows otherwise, decline is real and accelerating. And subscribe for more economic analysis. Next video: why Germany succeeded where France failed, same starting point, different choices, different outcomes. Thanks for watching. France chose comfort, got poverty. See you next one. Timing makes it worse. French baby boomers born between 1945 and 1973 now retiring en masse. 800,000 people exit workforce each year. Only 700,000 young people replace them. That's yearly shortfall of 100,000 workers, compounding indefinitely. Numbers no longer add up. In 1990 there were 5 working-age adults for every retiree. By 2000 ratio fell to 4. By 2010 it dropped to 3, today it's close to 2. By 2040 France will have 1.5 working-age adults for every retiree. You can see where this is going. Pensions and healthcare will consume ever larger share of budget. Tax base needed to fund them continues shrinking. Every French worker paying not just for themselves but for someone else's retirement. Mathematical impossibility. But gets worse because productivity isn't compensating. In healthy economy, workers become more productive through better technology and education and infrastructure. Rising productivity offsets demographic decline. 1 person does work of 2 from generation ago. In France, productivity growth stalled. Between 2015 and 2023, French productivity increased just 0.3% annually, half the OECD average. Catastrophic. This creates vicious feedback loop. Aging population demands more spending on healthcare and pensions, fewer workers and stagnant productivity means less wealth to fund those demands. Spiral accelerates. 3. The industrial exodus, manufacturing catastrophe. In 1980 manufacturing made up 26% of France's economy, today it's 13%. Sounds like normal deindustrialization, every advanced economy shifts toward services. But in France fallout has been existential. Manufacturing jobs cluster and multiply. 1 factory job supports 3 or 4 additional positions in logistics and maintenance and retail and services. When factories close in Lyon or Lille, entire ecosystems collapse, property values fall, young people leave, tax revenues plummet, remaining population ages and becomes more dependent on welfare. France experienced this firsthand. When euro introduced in 1999, France lost 900,000 manufacturing jobs within decade. 900,000. Global competition played role, but France uniquely exposed because of labor laws. French labor most expensive in Eurozone, when including social benefits employers pay nearly 50% more than gross salary. Germany it's 30%, Poland it's 20%, triple the cost. So manufacturers left. Why pay triple for French worker when someone in Poland does same job for much less? Outcome was industrial exodus, factories shut down and moved abroad. Michelin relocated tire production from Clermont-Ferrand to Poland and Spain. Renault shifted assembly operations to Morocco and Romania. PSA Peugeot Citroën closed plants in Aulnay-sous-Bois and moved production to Slovakia. Headquarters stayed in France for tax purposes, but actual production left. What remained was split economy, high-value services concentrated in Paris, provinces left with decaying industrial base. 2. Francis emerged. For the political paralysis, hardest to fix because embedded in institutions, problem starts with polarization. French politics split into 5 major blocks: far-right, center-right, center-left, far-left. None capable of forming majority, parliament divided, political compromise is nearly impossible, every government survives only by avoiding controversial decisions, paralysis institutionalized. When Macron pushed pension reform to raise retirement age from 62 to 64, he won legally but lost politically, his party shattered, approval ratings plunged, reform became so toxic nobody dared propose anything similar since. This affects everything. Tax reform, current system convoluted and riddled with loopholes and discourages investment, fixing it means some groups lose benefits, triggers protests, political backlash, nobody acts. Labor reform another example, rigid regulations keep youth unemployment high, any attempt at reform sparks union resistance and street protests and political risk, result is paralysis, nothing changes. Since 2017 France had 7 prime ministers, most lasted less than 18 months, each promised reform, delivered nothing meaningful, bureaucracy keeps running, state keeps borrowing, problems go unaddressed. Dangerous part is when nothing changes, voters radicalize, support for National Rally Marine Le Pen's far-right party grew from 18 to 33% in 7 years, meanwhile Jean-Luc Mélenchon's France Unbowed holds 22%. Between these juggernauts, anti-establishment parties claim more than half electorate, they can't govern but can block others from governing, gives them political leverage, self-preservation became self-destruction. This matters because France's problems require urgent coordinated action across multiple domains simultaneously. Pension crisis can't be solved without labor reform, labor markets can't be reformed without industrial policy impossible without tax reform. Everything connected, everything must move together, but political system now blocking exactly that kind of comprehensive reform, gridlock permanent. 5. The bond market rebellion. What people believe often outweighs whether something truly works. Economy is proof. For decades France's economic model worked because investors believed it would continue working, now that belief cracking. France's 10-year bond yield risen to 3.2%, highest since 2012, nearly on par with Italy. In fiscal policy that's dramatic turn. For most of Euro-era France borrowed at rates close to Germany's, sign markets viewed French debt as fundamentally safe, spread between French and German bonds rarely exceeded 50 basis points, today it's approaching 80 basis points and widening. May seem minor technicality but implications profound, each basis point adds billions in extra interest costs, these payments can't be cut or delayed, must be paid in full and on time or country defaults. EU Stability and Growth Pact designed to prevent precisely this situation, Euro built on simple premise, without shared safety nets each country must maintain fiscal discipline, Euro has no transfer union, no shared debt, no automatic support. System relies on fiscal restraint, most members stick to it, France however broke these rules since they were established, official limits say governments keep deficits below 3% and debt below 60% GDP. France running deficits of 6% and debt of 113% GDP, double the limits, whenever Brussels brings this up French nod politely and do nothing, systematic violation. 6. The slow-motion collapse, France's decline runs counter to historical norms, has nuclear energy, strong infrastructure, skilled people, global influence, UN Security Council seat, yet drifts toward irrelevance. Refuses to make hard political decisions, numbers unforgiving. At this pace France's debt will top 125% GDP by 2030, interest payments will surpass €100 billion annually. Pensions will require €50 billion in annual bailouts, not sustainable in any shape or form, something has to give, either lawmakers push through reforms or markets impose austerity through rising borrowing costs. or European Central Bank breaks own rules and finances French deficits indefinitely, whatever happens, Paris itself will remain wealthy, luxury brands will thrive, tourists keep visiting Eiffel Tower. Rest of country, however, will rot slowly. France that once shaped Europe and challenged global powers will become sterile. Within generation, France may become the very Britain it once mocked, old and poor and toothless. Final thoughts. France's trajectory is clear: demographic collapse, industrial exodus, political paralysis, debt crisis, all accelerating, all interconnected, nobody fixing anything. Let's recap numbers. Debt tripled to 3.4 trillion euros, 51 consecutive years of deficits, fertility rate fell from 2.0 to 1.6, births down 20%, manufacturing collapsed from 26 to 13% GDP. Youth unemployment 18%, 7 prime ministers in 8 years, bond yields rising, spread with Germany widening, debt 113% GDP, deficit 6%, both double EU limits.